exactly, but it was either about my performance or some light racism. Definitely one of the two. Give me a flipping break.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course. First, daughter in the crowd, both of them yelling, couldn't hear what they were saying exactly, but it was either about my performance or some light racism. Definitely one of the two. Give me a flipping break.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
First incredible.
Patrick Bet-David just went nuclear on Brittney Griner, and the internet is losing its mind. The Valuetainment founder saw the now viral clip tied to Griner's comments around CaitlinClark, and he did not hold back for even a second. What he said next instantly became a talking point across sports media, and honestly, it sounded like Griner probably wishes that whole moment never happened. So the real debate is this. Did PBD go too far with the way he came at her, or did Griner bring this on herself? Because once his rant hit the timeline, the sports world didn't just react, it exploded.
Of feminism is the ultimate example of not choosing your enemies wisely. You chose men as being the enemy. 40 years later, 50 years later, you're 65 years old, single, not married, no kids.
This wasn't a calm breakdown or a polite disagreement. It was one of the harshest rants sports fans have heard in a long time, and it was aimed straight at Brittney Griner. PBD went after the clip the moment it started circulating, and he didn't soften a single sentence. To him, it wasn't only about one player or one moment. He framed it as a window into what he thinks is broken in the current WNBA culture. And he said the chain of events started with a play that should have stayed simple. A chippy sequence involving CaitlinClark and Angel Reese. In his version, Angel shoved one of Clark's teammates, Clark answered with a foul, and then Angel went down dramatically, which he compared to a classic flop. That was his setup, and he used it to explain why the conversation got out of control so fast.
Diana Taurasi already did this. She was the Jackie Robinson, so to speak. But now they're doing this with CaitlinClark, and as if we're supposed to be like, oh my God, I can't wait for more WNBA.
According to PBD, the craziest part wasn't even the foul itself. The real chaos came when people stopped talking basketball and turned it into a bigger culture fight. Different voices jumped in and pushed the idea that Clark gets special treatment because she is white. He pointed to DeMarcus Cousins, saying the protection was race-based, and he talked about Angel Reese adding fuel with comments that kept the tension hot. But the moment that really triggered him was when Jemele Hill entered the conversation with a claim that lit up sports social media. Hill said Angel Reese could become the Michael Jordan of the WNBA. PBD treated that like a breaking point, because he looked at Reese's current shooting numbers and said the comparison was beyond absurd.
Brittney Griner voiced frustration in a recent interview, claiming that CaitlinClark is ruining what used to make the WNBA great. Wait for this.
Empty stands?
Tom, let me just...
I'm so mad.
WNBA games used to be a chill, quiet place. You could bring your laptop and relax, maybe even get a little work done. But now...
He kept hammering that point because the stats made it look even worse. A historically low shooting percentage being matched to the greatest player ever was, to him, proof that the conversation had left reality. PBD said you can usually tell what someone means by watching their face, their habits, and the way they carry themselves. But even without deep analysis, you can still recognize when a discussion is being driven by hate instead of facts. He also went back to the actual play and said Reese's fall looked ridiculous. Then the storyline got even messier when ESPN's Ryan Clark jumped in, not to talk about the game, but to attack Robert Griffin III for defending CaitlinClark. That shift made PBD even more angry, because he saw it as a pattern where anyone who supports Clark gets targeted.
Pardon Victor Bout, a convicted arms dealer serving a 25-year sentence in Illinois. Bout was responsible for supplying weapons to rogues and terrorists around the world, many committed to killing Americans.
The part that really set him off was Ryan Clark arguing that RG3's opinion should not count because RG3 is married to a white woman. PBD reacted like he couldn't believe something that divisive could be said on national television with a straight face. In his eyes, that idea twists race discussion into something poisonous, because it tries to disqualify a black man's viewpoint based on who he married. He framed it as proof that the sports debate had become more about identity fights than actual basketball. And then he said all of that was still only the warm-up, because the main moment, the one that turned the entire situation into a firestorm, was the Brittney Griner clip that surfaced after she fouled out against the Indiana Fever.
And think about it, Brittney Griner talking all that trash. We traded the merchant of death
for your ass, and you're out there talking shit and saying racist shit on the freaking sideline, and it's disgusting. Okay, that's why nobody watches it, and it'll
they're
lose
watching
money.
it.
That was when PBD went all in. He said the mic picked up something that sounded like a racial insult directed at CaitlinClark, and he treated it as completely unacceptable if that is what was said. He didn't tiptoe around the implication. He called it ugly and divisive, and he argued that someone in Griner's position should know better. Then he added a second layer that made his rant even harsher. He brought up Griner's past situation overseas and the fact that the United States made a major swap to bring her home. PBD framed it as a huge national sacrifice and said it made the alleged comment feel even more disrespectful. He reminded viewers that the person exchanged to secure her release was a dangerous figure, and he used that to argue that Griner should show more awareness and gratitude, not hostility toward the player currently drawing the biggest crowds and attention to the league.
Taurasi, because she came out pre-feminism, pre this push for making everything about feminism and femininity and pushing women down our throats. Without them pushing CaitlinClark and them advertising and marketing and putting her on TV, nobody.
From there, he widened the argument into a full cultural critique. He said there was a time when the WNBA didn't have consistent attention, and now, whenever teams play CaitlinClark, the arenas are loud and full, which should be a good thing for everyone. But he pointed to interviews and online chatter where it sounded like some players were annoyed by the noise, as if fans showing up is a problem instead of the entire point of professional sports. He also mentioned quotes circulating online that were later treated as satire, but he said the reason they spread so easily is because they felt believable to many people. In his view, that's how far the league's public image has slipped. When fans can't tell the difference between satire and reality, it means the league's vibe already looks that bad. PBD attacked the idea of resenting crowds, calling it backwards for a professional athlete to complain about attention, cheers, and pressure to perform. He treated it like proof that some players want the benefits of being pro without the expectations that come with it.
Where Ryan Clark says, how would he know he's married to a white girl? Is that the clip, Rob?
Yes, sir.
Okay, play this clip. Watch this, Vinny.
We moved in to being able to read the expressions of a person and know their intent, know their character, know their perspective. But he does understand hate because
He also brought CaitlinClark's own words into the conversation, pointing out that she once tried to calm the tension by acknowledging privilege and saying she wanted to uplift others. PBD argued that the intention might have been unity, but the result didn't help her. He said it made her look like she was trying to satisfy critics who were never going to accept her anyway. Then he contrasted that with the energy he believes other players carry, acting like the league owes them something while also attacking the one player generating momentum. His main claim was that the WNBA has developed a mindset problem, entitlement over appreciation, attitude over professionalism. He argued that the league loses money, gets help from bigger structures, and still has people acting like victims while living as well-paid athletes. His point was harsh but simple. If the league wants to grow, it cannot treat its biggest draw like the enemy.
What would they have, and how long would it have taken for Griner to come here? And what would they have gotten in return in the negotiation?
Well, Pat, just really fast.
Either one of them, with DeSantis or Trump.
This is, you're talking about crazy?
Then PBD moved into the numbers and the business reality. He repeated that Reese shooting in the low 20s is not something you can spin into a Jordan comparison, no matter how much you want a storyline. He also pointed at finishing stats around the rim and said the results do not match the hype being pushed by certain media voices. He predicted that the moment CaitlinClark misses time, ratings will drop sharply, and that will expose how much the league depends on her. He basically said, good, let the test happen, because the market will reveal the truth. Then he went even bigger and compared Clark to Jackie Robinson, not because of the exact history, but because he sees her as a person facing resistance inside her own sport while also raising the sport's profile. He argued that Robinson dealt with hostility while changing baseball, and Clark is dealing with resentment while changing women's basketball. It's a heavy comparison, but he used it to make one point. Some athletes end up carrying a sport forward while getting attacked for it.
Sitting there and people are yelling. Thousands of people. It's distracting. You're playing basketball in an arena. It doesn't make sense, Tom. They're doomed. They're doomed, and good for them. Adam, how much?
Finally, PBD turned his rant into a warning. He said sports become less enjoyable when everything turns into politics and constant social conflict, and he claimed casual fans eventually check out. He argued that pro leagues grow when they focus on excellence, highlights, and competition, not endless identity battles. He also said Caitlin's biggest mistake was trying too hard to win over people who wanted to dislike her from the start, and that it cost her support from multiple sides. His overall message was that merit has to lead, and the WNBA is wasting a rare opportunity by not fully building around what is clearly working. Whether you agree with his tone or not, his rant landed because it said out loud what many viewers have been thinking: that the league is drifting into self-sabotage, and the moment it should be celebrating most is turning into non-stop drama. So what do you think? Was Patrick Bet-David exposing a real problem, or was he just chasing controversy? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more direct sports breakdowns, like and subscribe.